Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Yeah, that Hanukkah song, not by might, not by might, not by power, but Spirit alone, Ruach will we. I was thinking about that the other day, and I thought, what an absurd offering of Hanukkah, not by might. About that Maccabean revolt? Really? Like, that's the Hanukkah story. We don't have another Jewish holiday that's a straight up pure military victory in the same way. You're going to say not by might about that one? It's a peculiar thing. But I actually feel that tension, and I feel like I get it in a way that I didn't get it before. And I don't know what it was. I think a combination of events and things unfolding and taking place this week, but against the backdrop of the attacks at Bondi Beach in Australia, massacre of people celebrating Hanukkah, I was thinking a lot about that song. I was thinking about the convergence of those two ideas throughout the tea and conversation group, Diet Dew and conversation. And I was thinking about the juxtaposition between the book of Maccabees and what Talmud says about Hanukkah. Now, Maccabees, there isn't just one of them, there's four of them, by the way. And curiously enough, is it in the Tanakh? Is it in the Hebrew Bible? No, it's not. It's in the Catholic Bible, weirdly enough, but not in the Hebrew Bible. We're the ones that celebrate Hanukkah. Go figure. But it outlines the whole, Hasmonean movement, the Maccabean revolt, and all of its gritty detail and glory and all of that. Talmud doesn't do that. Talmud doesn't go the same route that it does. Talmud has the whole thing. Well, Talmud gets kind of granular in a different kind of way, in this legalistic sort of way, which is just so delightful if you love Talmud like I do, and Simcha does. And it gets into the whole thing. What are you supposed to do with the Hanukkah menorah? Where do you put it? How do you light it this way, that way? How many candles? All of it's like little details. And they get into this whole thing about you're supposed to put the Chanukiah in your window. You're not supposed to derive direct benefit from it, because it is supposed to purely be for the function of Pirsumet Hanes, publicizing the miracle. It's a piece of why it has its own little lighter that comes with it on the side, because you can't light the candles with one another. You have to have that extra helper one, because otherwise they'd be doing something other than publicizing the miracle. Now, Talmud has an additional allowance for in a time of danger, you don't have to put the thing in your window. What I was stewing over after our conversation in tea and conversation was that Talmud, for all of its awareness of the Maccabean revolt and the success of it, they don't advocate that you go pick up a sword and go fix it if you're in a time of relative danger in the Jewish community. They say, put your Chanukiah elsewhere. And that's interesting, because the whole thing's in reference, actually, to armed revolt. It has a consciousness. It has a subtext of being armed, doing the hard thing, potentially even sacrificing oneself. And it doesn't go there. It says the Chanukiah is for, just to put out the light into the place and to publicize it. And, if you need to be a little bit more circumspect about it, you take it in. But you don't try and go change the circumstances that might make you more introspective around your Hanukkah observance. And I find that a really striking thing. And I ultimately decided and realized and thought to myself, I actually think that the Maccabees and their appeal to a certain kind of purity, that Hasmonean impulse that does pick up a sword, is a different one than what the rabbis are talking about because they have a different project. The more I thought about it, the less I was convinced that the rabbis are actually thinking about you in that specific time, that moment of danger. And I think they're thinking about what it means to project light differently. Their project, what's the time difference between the Maccabean revolt and about when we think the Talmud is redacted? Any of you Talmud fans want to take a swing at that one? 650 years or so. 650 years. We're in a country that's a couple hundred years old. Like, 249. Couple hundred years old. It's not so ancient next to a 5,000-year-old consciousness within Judaism, or even just the discrepancy between the people in the Talmud talking about the Hanukkah and the actual events of the Hasmonean revolt. 650 years. But the rabbis, I think, by that time have a different investment, a different idea of what that project means. Theirs is not a political one, I don't believe. They've actually captured and enshrined this idea of miracle. God somehow delivering the people. And they're doing it with an additional 650 years of perspective. They have realized, and they know, yeah, that Maccabean revolt, that was great and whatever, and then in 2 generations they get corrupt as all get out and they welcome in King Herod, and then who welcomes in the Romans, and that's the end of the enterprise. Doesn't work out that well. The political project, it has its ups and its downs. It has its successes and its failures, but this idea of projecting light to publicize the miracle, and they say it's not for you, the lighter of the possessor, the owner of the Hanukkah. And what I was thinking about are the ways in which, yeah, maybe you're supposed to put it out in the public square or whatever, but no, maybe the rabbis aren't even talking about that. They're playing the long game. They're already thinking about, well, how are we going to pass Hanukkah down in another 500 years or another 1,000 years? This isn't an alien idea to the rabbis. There's no such thing as early or late. They're not worrying about 2 years from now. That's not what they're focused on. And if you think about what it means to project that light another 500 or another 1,000 years from right now, who do you need to share it with? The kids. Thank you, Havala. The people who are, yeah, small. She gestured to it. I saw that. Children. Hi, Ryan. Thank you. Thank you for being here, children. Yeah. He's taller than me now, too. They do that, those kids. But the point being that you yourself may own the Chanukiah and have the candles or the oil or the thing and have the mitzvah and have the idea that you're supposed to light it and publicize it, but who are you publicizing it to? Well, one angle would be you publicize it to the public square. You put it out there in the world, drive around with it, and that's cool. But another angle on this, if you're looking at the long game of it, is you publicize it forward in time. You project, you cast that light, l'dor vador. It's not just about the security measures, and I think that's part of why the rabbis are not inspired by the Hasmonean project to go pick up a sword and fix whatever the instability is out there, because they're thinking about the next 500 years, next 1,000 years. When we talk about these different things, these catastrophes, all of these things, and we talk about what it means to be secure and all of that, we're talking about very here and now problems, and we're not wrong to. We have to live in this era just as much as the Hasmoneans had to live in 165 BCE, and the rabbis had to live in 500 CE, and so forth and so on. We have to be attentive to it. But I do want to suggest there's another axis on which we shine and cast light. I want to suggest that it's time, and it's generations, and it's children. I think it is not an accident that Hanukkah winds up looming large in the minds of children, not because of just presents, although that helps, but that whole wonder of the light in the darkest time of the year. There's something magical about it, just visually, spiritually, what it feels like. We're going to talk about turning and returning to memories and feelings and what it means to revisit some of these elements tomorrow. But as a stopping point today, I just want to suggest that Pirsum et Hanes is not just a three-dimensional spatial thing right now, but I want to suggest that it's a generational project too. And I want to suggest that it's not about the 8 nights and where we find ourselves this time, and is it Tuesday, and where we go for this candle lighting or whatever. But we're actually part of this same project that the rabbis were. We're part of the project that is passing Hanukkah on for the next 500 years, the next 1,000 years, the next couple thousand years. That's what it means to be Jewish. So I'm holding on to that idea. It's not to ignore or to minimize the tragedy, the risks, some of the dark parts of being Jewish today, but it is to suggest that we cannot stop casting that light, and we cannot stop casting it forward in order to fulfill that long vision, that long journey that we as a Jewish people are on together. Shabbat Shalom.